How about now? Oh, yes, I bet you can hear me now. Yes, yes, yes. Why that setting got turned off, I'll never know. Can you hear me, Pascal? There is a great deal. I'm running with a really low latency to try and to. Andre is there. He can hear me. Yay! So I'm going to start over now that I got the sound worked out. There was a weird setting that changed itself for some reason. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday the 13th. Ooh. Hope there are no Jasons hiding in your backyard. So what I wanted to talk about today on this Friday's Foo was connecting techniques and marriage saved. In no way am I going to be able to come up with an exhaustive discussion. But I wanted to examine this. We had a brief discussion with a new student Wednesday about this, and it just kind of came out, as often happens in class. It was after class, and it just spontaneously happened. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to do for today, I thought, well, okay, that's a good one. It can actually be far more in depth than I'm going to go into tonight. First, let's get a baseline on something. Let's examine for a moment boxing, which is technically a martial art, but it's a sport. It has rules. The rules greatly limit what the boxer can do. Depending on how you want to count it, a boxer has 4 to 10 tools. I'm not talking about attributes like speed or strength, but actual tools. Jab, cross, you could count those as 2 tools, but they are straight punches versus hooks, which are angular punches, and uppercuts, which are angular punches, and overhands, which are angular punches. So on one hand, you got like maybe 3 straight things and 4 angular things. You can really muddy the waters by worrying about, you got your left hook and your right hook, and your forward hook and your rear hook, and you got your body shots. But body shots are just hooks. But basically, a very limited set of tools for a reason. It is a sport. Sport inherently limits things. It is a game. Chess is played with chess pieces. Checkers is played with checker pieces. You're not allowed to play chess with checker pieces because it doesn't make any sense. So boxing, let's say roughly 10 tools. Then let's throw in, let's look at something like Muay Thai for a moment. Well, they have those same basic 4 to 10 tools, however you want to count it, but they can throw in some elbows, kicks, and clinches, and knees. Depending, again, on how you count it, I've always said that Muay Thai has about 30 tools. And that's double now.
Oh, yes. I bet you can hear me now.
Oh, there's the latency showing up.
Yes.
Okay. There. No feedback. Thank goodness. So Muay Thai has about 30 tools. Even if you double up on some of them, your lead switch kick, your rear kick, you got 3 angles of elbows, a downward elbow, and upward, or 4 angles actually, downward, upward, horizontal, and pierce. You got your basic, they're angled kicks, the typical Muay Thai kick, but then there is something called the cut kick, which is a little bit more forward. I didn't think about it at the time that I was writing this list, but they actually have a knee kick, so that throws in maybe one more. Low kicks, high kicks, knees, standing knee, clenched knee, cut knee. But again, 30 or so techniques. Not a lot for the entire thing. Again, because it is controlled as a sport. It is a game. You must play with these pieces. You are not allowed to play with other pieces. But when you think about that, and then you think about Wing Chun, most Kung Fus for that matter, Wing Chun has approximately 22 hands, ways of using the hand. Bill, Bong, Chewy or Chun, the punch, Fook, Gan, Gum, Hoon, Jern, Jiao, Jut, or Jum. I consider Juts and Jums the same thing. Quan, Lan, Lao, Lop, Lut, Moot, Man or Fan Sao, Pak, Sat, Tan, Tai, and Wu. It's like 22 different hands, which is in some regards for some people the complaint of what karates and kung fus are. They got too much stuff. It's way too complicated. Therefore, we're going to go into the ring and mix it up, and we're going to cut some stuff out to make it simpler. And then you start throwing in things like Superman punches and cage crawls and cage climbs. The idea that there's too much, I think that only applies for people who are not interested in it. For people who are interested in it, the complexity is not the issue. What becomes the issue is, since it does have a variety of things to work with, is how do these things connect? I mean, if we look at just Silam Tao, for example, there is like, let's see, Silam Tao, there's like at least 16 of these hands mentioned or practiced. Your Chewy, your punch, Bill, Tan, Hoon, Jern, Gan, Bong, Lut, Lao, Pak. Let's see, I've got it written down here. I'll make it easy. Chewy, Bill, Hoon, Jut, Wu, of course, Fook, Jern, Lan Sao, Sat Sao, Jam, Moot, Tai. I think Gan's listed already? No. Gan Sao, Lao Sao, Bong Sao, and Lut Sao. That's 16 of those 22 in Silam Tao alone. I'm going to step back for a moment, back to boxing. All of the boxing tools, pretty much for the most, or at least all the ones that I've talked about, are strikes. They're punches. Boxing's blocking or deflecting or covering is pretty much just cover, right? Cover and roll a little bit. Maybe some slips and bobs and weaves. Boxing, by definition, is momentary contact. Hit and bounce off. Hit and bounce off. So, a jab can lead to a cross. A jab can lead to a rear hook. A jab can lead to an uppercut. In most cases, what tends to happen, most, not all, and I'll get to that in a moment, their connectivity is literally through the core itself. If I throw something with my left, the next thing is probably going to be something with my right. That doesn't mean it has to be that way, but 9 times the best flow, the best connectivity is through the waist. But that is because they are always dealing in a momentary fashion. They're only dealing with the hit or the block. I mean, even something like a shoulder roll, where I'm avoiding a punch or slipping from a punch, I'm going to come back with the opposite side as an immediate response. Sometimes you can throw the wonderful, tricky techniques, say a jab to a hook, where it's the same. It's a hand, but it inherently is the longer beat. Jab cross is the quick beat. Jab hook, same hand, is the longer beat. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how it is designed. That is the function of the system. Wing Chun, however, if we follow the cue and cue it, meet what enters, stick to it, and escort it away, there's some of these 22 or more hands that work together, and some of them do not and cannot. And we have to understand that. We have to kind of find a way in ourselves as we train to recognize that and separate them. A good example would be what we were talking about Thursday night, or maybe Wednesday night. Pak does not lend itself well to whom? Because I have to make another motion, or something even more blatant. It is difficult to connect a jam to a bomb. Okay? I might, if the opponent is throwing the hand the same side that I'm going to jam with, if they throw the punch and I jam, and they, with their opposite hand, they throw a punch, I might bong, but in doing so, I have left myself unguarded from the original hand. I've removed my trap of my contact with it, and I've left myself unguarded. And that's because the energy of these two things, of jam, some people call it jop, the easiest way to think of it is a chop. The energy of the jam and the bong they're both hard forward to some degree. Bong is deflecting, so it's not super hard forward. But the shape of the arm and the direction of the energy requires a reset that is naturally built into boxing, but is not supposed to be there in Wing Chun or most Kung Fus. Jam lends itself to certain techniques. Jam lends itself to Hun. Jam lends itself to Fook. Jam can, on the opposite arm, lend itself to Tan. Tan cannot easily lend itself to Jam. I would have to, more than likely, reset, or I'd be dealing with the opposite arm, probably leaving something unguarded, something covered from the other side. Trust me, I have not sat down and created an exhaustive list. I can say things like Bong doesn't lend itself to Jam. Jam does not easily lend itself to Pak. Once you've jammed, it's not easy to Pak. Same condition. If I jam the same side arm, I could Pak the other side arm, but now I'm left open. If I wanted to Pak safely on the outside, I'd have to disconnect and start over. Pak does not easily lend itself to Jut. Well, it can from the opposite side. That's not as egregious. Pak does not easily lend itself to Bong or lead itself to Bong. Some of the things that do connect well that I can think of, Bong does lead to Tan, and Bong leads to Tan, but it doesn't lend to Jam. Tan leads itself well to Sat, Tan Sat Sao, right? Tan lends itself well to Bill, or just Bill, right? Tan lends itself well to Gansao. John lends itself well to Gansao. Tan does lend itself to Bong, or lead itself to Bong. Pak leads to Sat, Pak, Sat, or Pak, Bu. Pak leads to Bu well, but it doesn't lead to Gan well. You can get there, but it doesn't lead well. One of the reasons this happens, and one of the ways we want to think about it in a more general sense, like I said, I did not come up with an exhaustive list, and I don't know that you want to try to come up with an exhaustive list. It would be a terribly long list, and trying to remember all of those things would be crazy hard. The thing to look at and examine is the energies. Things like Bill or Chewy, the punch, Tan, Jam, Pak for the most part, Gansao, Moot Sao, Tai Sao, Lao Sao, Lut Sao, Wu Sao, Lan Sao, Gum Sao, and Jern tend to have forward facing energies or driving forward energy, hard energy. Shoot, I don't have my list of energies right at the top of my head, but that's an aggressive forward energy. Things like Bong, and sometimes Pak, even though I mentioned Pak earlier, Sat Sao, Hun Sao, Jiao Sao, Fuk Sao, Quan Sao, those all tend to be angular energies. You can compare them to some degree to hooks, or boxers' hooks, but also just to turning the opponent. Then you also have deflecting or redirecting energies. Bong is also a redirecting energy. Pak can be considered a redirecting energy depending on how you use it. Jam can be a redirecting energy, but it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to cut. It's supposed to hurt, which is not really a redirection or deflection. It will deflect in the same sense that a stone will deflect a bullet, but it's kind of uncontrolled deflection. Jut is a deflecting or redirecting energy. Lop, I mean, you can't call Lop a forward energy. Lop is pulling or jerking, so it's not in the list of forward energies. It's not necessarily angular. I might turn the opponent with a Lop, but basically it's a redirection of their energy. Fuk Sao in the same sense, at least the way I do it, thinking of the opposing hip or the opposing angle where I'm trying to turn the opponent a little bit. Quan Sao is inherently two hands, so one hand is kind of a cover and one can be a redirection or deflection. So you want to start to work with the techniques in groups of what their energies are, and you will recognize that you can't have two different hands of the same kind of energy follow each other. In other words, like a forward Jing Jern and a forward Jam requires, like a boxer, a complete disconnect. But a forward Jing Jern into a response by the individual into a tan, which can then go forward to some degree, that can sort of can connect together, not because the tan is so forward at that point, but because it's redirecting or angular. So, I mean, it's a little confusing, but I think I'm making sense. I hope no one was looking for an exhaustive list, because out of 22 hands alone, we're not talking about We're not talking about stance. We're not talking about structure. We're not talking about kicks. I haven't even begun to talk about elbows, which are Wing Chun tool, kicks, which are Wing Chun tool. All the variations would be a huge number, a huge number. But I hope I've given everybody something to think about in terms of, well, a good example is often like Razone or somebody will ask me about playing with the Mukyang Jong, just making stuff up. And yeah, if you want to do like the third set in the Mukyang Jong and go pak, 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 or jam, 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 that's fine, but recognize you're disconnecting, which is not really the goal in Wing Chun. More like that pak sao set, pak, 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 jam, sat. Jam lends itself to sat. This is forward and in and forward and in, and I don't have to reset, I don't have to move, I do not have to disconnect. And that sat lends itself to a lop or a pull, a different energy, a deflecting energy, but Sifu Phillips calls it unwinding, and I use the same term. I've wound my way in, the lop is unwinding my way out for the next thing. But that punch, good example from the Mukyang Jong, once I've done that center punch, I have to disconnect that. I have to completely change the flow of energy in order to then get to three things that connect. So I hope that gives you all something to think about. And of course, ask questions if you have questions. And there you go. I hope everybody's having a good day. It's kind of yucky here in South Carolina right now. Hopefully the sun's going to come out this weekend. I hope so. I hope the weather is nice where you are, wherever you are. Any questions, guys or gals? Guys and gals. Am I still being transmitted? Yes, I know I'm being transmitted. Any thoughts? I'll give it a moment. Let you all think and ponder. And also dealing with the latency. I'm running, just out of curiosity, so or just for general information, anybody can make note. OBS Studio and YouTube Studio have 3 latency settings: normal, low, and ultra low. As the latency goes down, the quality goes down. Quality of visual and the quality of audio. But the lag time shortens. The last few of these I have run on low latency. The lag time seems to be about 3 to 4 minutes, which is why, unfortunately, I remember a couple sessions back, Pascal asked the question, but I didn't get it until after I'd already finished and wrapped up. I would prefer it. Next week I may try ultra low latency to see if get the lag time super duper short. So, seeing no questions, nothing's popping up. I hope everyone's having a great Friday. I know it's Friday evening the 13th. You probably want to go out and have a drink, go to a bar, visit a friend. So you all take care. Have fun. Whoop. Best drills for tonight's discussion. Interestingly enough, Andre, most of the drills that we do in class, I I won't even say most. I'd say all the drills that we do in class lend itself directly to tonight's discussion. Take, well, okay, the simplest drills, like the lop sow drill, where my lop leads to me raising my hand and you following it, and then your lop. I mean, that's just a lop leading to a lop, right? That's kind of a change of energy in that I'm pulling or you're pulling, but we're never disconnecting. Even better, the one that I like the most is that they punch, you jam, you hoon, they jow, they gum. And then you punch, they jam, they hoon, you jow, and then gum. All those things connect. The hoon, the jam leading to the hoon, and then his jow leading to gum connect. If you think about what a boxer would do, right? If I punched with my left, a boxer would bang it, block it, catch it, and then come back with something else. Probably with the other hand. Maybe they'd do a cut punch. 1, 2. Maybe. That's connected. But that's about all the boxer has that connects. Most of the drills I give you deal with things that connect in some way. The Pak Sao drills. Okay. When we get to the point where, I mean, at first the guy's throwing a chain punch, and you're going Pak, Pak, Pak. That's disconnection. That's like boxing. Until I tell you to go Pak, Tan, Jut. All those things connect. So that you're dealing with the 3 punches with one hand. And the energy's always forward. Pak, Tan, Jut. Pak, Tan, Jut. Or Pak, Tan, Bang. And you'll notice in that case, it went Tan, Bang, which I said sort of connects. It didn't go Pak, Bang, because you can't connect those two. So quite simply, just examine most of the drills we do, and it will give to you the idea of which techniques out of the myriad of Wing Chun hands, which ones lend themselves to each other or lead to the others, and which ones have to start from ground zero. A jam 9 times out of 10 has to start from ground zero. The guy punches, you jam. If you're in the middle of a flurry, it's hard, even with 1-inch power, it's hard to always execute a jam. 9 times out of 10, if you could execute a jam in the middle of a flurry, it would end up becoming a tan. It wouldn't be a jam. But jam leads itself to other techniques. It leads itself to a hoon. It leads itself to a tan. Okay? So I can't give you a specific one because there are just too many. But if you really want to focus on it, look at the drills that I talked about, the basic drills that I talked about. Also the Bang Lop Sat drill. Bang leads to Lop, which leads to Sat, which leads to Chewy, but then it breaks. Then there has to be a re-engagement, a disconnect. But those things, Bang leads to Lop, which leads to Sat, which leads to Lop, which leads to Chewy. Those things connect together. I hope that helped, Andre, and we'll do some more in class. So you all have a great Friday evening, and as always, keep on training.